Russia, I guess, right? Yeah. Good to see you. Okay, so this is part of this Gyan thing, and so let's move on to the next one here, that which is funded through this Ministry of Health Human Resources and Development scheme. Okay, so this is essentially talking about nanotechnology and try to give you an idea of what it is when we talk about nanotechnology. As you can hear, that when we talk about nano means we're talking very, very small particles here. Okay, so in this presentation, that we'll talk about definition, give you some introduction about that, history of the nanotechnology, as you heard about that, that Professor Sharma talked about that, that who was the first person that who was Nobel laureate in physics in 1959, I believe, that came up with this terminology, starting anything from bottom up. Right now when we study anything, we start from the top. Okay. Then talk about the different. You can see that that the sequence, the timeline of nanotechnology, evolution of nanotechnology in India, and then what is the international status. In India, it is pretty relatively slower compared to other countries, and you'll find it out. Okay, so the definition that the nanotechnology, that manipulating matter on atomic level, very, very small. We're talking about nanometer range here. The constructing and engineering a functional system at very micro level, very atomic level, and you will see that that the size now here we're talking about 1/1000th of a meter. Meter, if you remember that, 100 centimeter, and 1 centimeter is made up of 10 millimeter, right? Okay, and the millimeter is how small is that? Okay, that if you look the human hair, which is around 25,000 nanometer in size, and if you look this chart here, that gives you an idea here. So if you look this person here, maybe we need to turn off the light here. The front one here. Okay, if you look this one here, okay, maybe this is not working. Okay, if you look at that, the left-hand side over there, the size of a human person, that which is approximately 60 foot, and then if you look at going this way here, oh, okay, now I see here. Okay, so if you go this way down here, if you look at here, that the nanometer is over here. You're talking about 10 to the power -9 here. Okay, a very, very small size here. If you look some of the example here, this is your DNA helical structure, that it's about approximately around nanometer in size here. If you look this one here, the blood cell, which is a micron, 2 to 5 micrometer in size here. Okay, some of the apparatus being used in nanotech, that they are here at different sizes down here. Look at that, one of the head of the pin, we all use it, which is approximately 1 millimeter in size. Very small size we are talking about. So, that coming over here is somewhere around nanometer, somewhere down here. Very, very small size. See, this is biomotor, 10 nanometer in size. Some of these being developed to study in medicine and so on here. Atomic handwriting, some of those, some of the digital technology here we're talking about 2 nanometer in size. Okay? So when we talk about nanotechnology, that it is, right now, it is in fact one of the key signs many of the institutions are, setting forth about that, that when we talk about this, we are talking about that, sorry about that. We're talking about enhances the physical, chemical, and biological properties at nano scale, very, very small scale. And as you can see it here, okay, I'm still having a problem with this one. Sorry about that. Okay, so, and as we talk about nanoscience, as I was talking earlier, that, that it is interdisciplinary department, or interdisciplinary science, you can call it. Okay, so we are talking about biotechnology, we are talking about chemistry, we are talking about physics, material science. Okay, many of these nanotechnology being studied in material sciences, electrical engineering, physics, and so on. So as I was mentioning earlier, that that when we say that I'm an expert of nanoscience, no, you cannot be an expert, because you cannot know about all these areas here. Okay, yeah, you can be expert in certain areas, but then if you want to move further, then you need to get help from other discipline, because the way our system is as such that we cannot be expert in many of those areas here. Okay, it has been developed from the exploration phase to the commercialization phase here. So right now, as things are moving forward, then something comes up and then being used for commercialization. So as we were talking about ethics, remember that it was in the title, that that there is not a mention that how it will impact the human population, how it will impact our ecology. Okay, there has not been done much in that area. Okay, we talked about that. For example, I work with the plant system. I work with the eco-friendly method to develop the nanofabrication, a nanoparticle here. Okay, yes, I know about the plant. We can develop it. We can control shape and size, and you'll see later on. But then, if I want to know more about that, what kind of coating do we have on those nanoparticles, I'm nil. I'm zero. I don't know about that. I need to have a physicist, or I need a chemist who can characterize that. So basically, I will go and start looking for the people having expertise who can help me with that idea, with that knowledge. Okay? So you see that, many of these areas we are talking about, that if you're talking about medical science, there is a lot of nanotechnology being used in molecular medicine. Of course, being a plant scientist, I am not going to know about the medicine. So you need to have a contact with a medical doctor, because he is the one going to be knowing about that when the nanoparticle gets into the body, how does it travel, where does it gets accumulated, what kind of toxicity, and so on. But I cannot study those things. It's not a great slide here, but if you look at here, that that there are certain areas. This is essentially, and it's hard to read it. I can read it up here, but so you see that that when we talk about nanotechnology, we talked about that it started in 1959. Okay, but then if you start relating those back in time, it started somewhere between 9th and 12th century. Okay, so that's a long, long time back. If you go to the church, you see all these in their windows. All these color their glasses in the window. Those were because of the nanotechnology. Now we know about those. Okay, so it started a long way, and if you look at here, that that somewhere between, if you look at here, okay, look over here. This is 1959 here. That is the time where the Richard Freeman, he's the one, he basically coined the term that nanotechnology, and of course got the Nobel Prize for that work in physics. Okay, and if you go further here, that you see here look at 1974 here, that you're talking about the scientist from Tokyo, from Japanese scientist, that he's the one. In fact, the terminology for nanotechnology came from the Japanese scientist. But the Richard Freeman, he said that we need to start looking from the bottom, going from the bottom, go to top. Okay. Then all these other stuff down here that you see, that I'll be going in a lot more detail, and you'll see it because it is difficult to see over here. So the nanometer that that it came in 1925 by Richard Sigmondi, and here that I want to make this session more like interactive here. So now nano, the size. Now the question I'm going to ask you guys, and most of the students over here, that that when we want to study nano, what are things we need to have in order to study nano? Can you guys tell me? Very fine microscope, which can go 2 nanometer size. Okay? SEM, EM, AFM, there are several types of those. XRD, yeah. So if you look at here, that so of course that when we start studying about the nano, of course we need microscope. People started, well, we cannot study. This is small size. We need to have a microscope. So there was a need. In Hindi we call it आविष्कार आवश्यकता आविष्कार की जननी है. Yes, exactly. So that's what it is. There was a need for a microscope which can see at that small level. Okay, and you'll see later on here. Okay, so here the Eric Drexler in 1955, he basically started working with the molecular nanotechnology, because we're talking about very, very small particle. So it means we're talking about the molecular nanotechnology here. Okay. Freeman name came in 1959. Okay, and then he gave a lecture in American Physical Society meeting, as Professor Sharma was talking about, that that there is plenty of room at the bottom. Okay, and that he introduced the concept of manipulating matter at atomic level. He coined that. He said that we need to start looking at the bottom. We need to start looking at the nano level. Okay, and this guy here in 1974, that he gave the term of nanotechnology. Then in 1980, that this fullerenes were coined by certain Japanese group here, that which is the molecule of carbon here. You're talking about buckyball. You might have heard about that buckyball. Okay, and you're talking about carbon nanotubes here. That is something area that that being explored by many scientists. That it has been shown that carbon nanotube can enhance the plant growth. Again, there are some experiments shows that, but what will be the ultimate goal? We don't know about that. Okay. Then we're talking about that when we start looking at the nano scale, then we need to have this microscope here. So that gave the a need to develop these that scanning tunneling microscope, which came in 1980 by IBM Zurich scientists. Then after that, atomic force microscope. I remember that in my time, that was developed, and people started, $450,000. Okay, people are using it. Then Eric Drexler, he came up with the idea that the nanoscale assembler able to build a copy of itself. So you're talking about nanoscale molecule, it will start building a copy of itself, bottom to up. Okay. Then this Japanese group over here, they developed the carbon nanotubes. Okay. And then now the 21st century is about this emerging field of nanoscience and nanotechnology. This is the timeline basically that that in that table you saw earlier, which was hard to read. But if you look at here, that that it started a long time back in 1931. Okay, Max Nott and Ruska created the first electron microscope, because that gave the reason to develop an instrument which can see these small atomic electron that can see atomic size particles. Okay. Then 1936, Erwin Miller, that he developed the field emission microscope, allowing near atomic resolution images. In 1951, Erwin Muller pioneered the field ion microscope. And remember that, 1953, anyone knows what happened in 1953? DNA structure by Watson and Crick. Okay, so 1953, and that remember that earlier slide I showed you, the DNA is around somewhere around 2 to 3 nanometer in size. Okay, so that came, so it started getting into more nanoscale size within the biological molecule here. So 1953, the discovery of DNA. 1959, again, same Richard Feynman, that the potential of nano-sized particles, that start looking from bottom to up, and then of course he was given the Nobel Prize, and what he is, he gave a lecture that what I want to talk about the problem of manipulating and controlling things at a small scale. So if you, these days you can find a lot of books about the nanotechnology, and his study, his idea is always there. Okay. In 1981, tunneling microscope was discovered, which observed the particles at nanoscale size. See that over time, that how progress has been made to study what we are doing today. Okay. Atomic force in 1986. Okay, the 1988, the quantum dots were discovered. Okay, the Quantum dots are the nano-sized crystal semiconductor material made from the same substance. We showed it strikingly different colors. Lots of articles. If you study about the nanotechnology, a lot of articles coming in quantum dots. Okay. In 1991, the carbon nanotubes were developed. 2000. So now, until that time, before 2000, all these nanotechnology was coming up, and all these later on you will find it out that all these techniques were developed. They were used to develop several kind of applications, but then there was no guideline. Okay, how we are going to use them? Is any potential for toxic effect? Is that good or not? So your National Nanotechnology Initiative, NNI, came out in 2000. And that initiative came, US produced it, and I remember that I wrote, there was a funding for that part of the National Nanotechnological Initiative. There was funding for that, and I wrote a proposal. I didn't get the funded, but it was, more money was given to study about nanotechnology. Okay, so here there were people, scientists, they were talking about nanoscience, nanotechnology, but there was no formal course being set up in any university. Okay, if somebody wants to become a nanoscientist, there was no course set up for that. So in fact, 2004, that SUNY, State University of New York, developed a course in nanotechnology. Okay, so it started, that there was a need for education for the student to fill up the manpower for the future. Okay. Then you see here in 2006 that Rice University built a nanoscale car. See that? All these advances. You find that, after 90s, 2000, a lot more product has come out. Okay, in 2007, Angela Belcher, she is the one developed this lithium-ion battery. That, remember that your cell phone has lithium-ion battery. All these hybrid cars, Tesla is essentially, that doesn't use any fuel. Just the battery operated, and it has lithium-ion battery. So, see change in energy here. Nanotechnology started helping with the energy problem here. Okay? In fact, that, so all these innovative battery work came after this 2007 here. Okay, power plug-in hybrid car. These days, I remember that, that Tesla uses about 300 miles. You can go in one charge. But then think about that. If you are going for a long drive, you need to have a station all the way. Okay? So, that generated that, every 200 or 300 or major city on the highway that, should have a charging station for that. Okay, in 2008, National Nanotechnology Initiative strategy for nanotechnology related environmental, health, and safety research was published. So when we develop about this nanotechnology, a product coming from this science here, that how it is going to impact the environment, our health and safety. Okay? Remember that, 2008, you're talking about only 10, 11 years back. And we still do not know a lot more about that. Yeah, there are some funding, articles are coming, but nothing has been written concretely yet. Okay, in 2011, it was further upgraded. Okay, 2012, the NNI launched 2 more nanotechnology signature initiative that you're talking about nanosensor and nanotechnology knowledge infrastructure. Remember that, nanotechnology, nanosensor. That when you go to a store to buy a meat product, you don't know that meat product is sitting there for how long. There are sensors. You can look in those that embedded with the meat, and just by looking the sensor, you can figure it out that whether meat is good or bad. So earlier we didn't know. I mean, I know that there are certain places in the U.S. that they will take whole meat, they will take it and they will wash it with the Clorox, just to make sure that they don't lose any money. Wash with the Clorox and then sell it. People will buy it because you don't know, you were not there, so you didn't know about that, whether it is new or old or what. It has been sitting there for 2 weeks. Small microbes had started germinating on that, but they will kill it with the Clorox, wash it, repack it, put it back there on the shelf. What? Okay. There were flagship programs were developed, and Nanotech developed the 5 flagship programs here. And if you look at, they are there here. If you look at here on the top, that Nanometrological and Characterization and Engineering Unit, Functional Nanomaterial and Nano Frontiers Research Unit, then Nano Agriculture and Environmental Research Unit, and then Nanomaterials and Nano System Engineering Research Unit, and then Nano Life and Health Research Unit. So there were 5 areas, flagship areas were developed, okay, and they are here. You see that? These here. Sorry, some of the color is kind of mixed with the screen, so it's hard to see them, okay. And those were, using those flagship that, the platform was built, and then eventually it was used to develop the product, which has high economic and societal impact. Okay, so all these are progress towards making sure that this nanoscience is helping us, or there is no need for us to be scared. Okay, so look here that part of this nanotech companies here, that national collaborator universities and some of the R&D companies got collaborated, started developing here, and many countries in the US that that if you're developing a technology, but that technology has some relevance, and if you collaborate with an industry, you get a top priority for that. Because you can develop the technology, but industry has resources to put in the money to take it to commercialization, take it further ahead, which is very difficult to do it as a scientist if you don't have resources. Okay? So there were, you can see that there were 9 nanotech Center for Excellence, and then there were several international collaborations. Different countries got into, got together and developed different kind of partnership. from one country to other country. Okay? And then eventually this whole thing led into getting industry getting involved to develop a further product. If you look this different countries that what are their governmental initiative to develop this nanotechnology, and if you look at here that of course the U.S. okay, it was the first one to develop the national nanotechnology initiative in 2000. So it start putting some sort of framework how we are going to be moving, and then of course 1.5 billion is nothing. It's a nothing, I'll tell you that. But they started somewhere, okay, and basically started dealing with all these nanotechnology here. Japan, you can see that they started with a small amount, $250 million, okay, for only certain areas, nanoelectronics and nanomaterials. If you look to South Korea is pretty well advanced, I tell you that. Okay, you will find later on, but it is pretty well advanced to any other countries here. That some of their ministry involved the key body funding it, and they started, you see that, only $2 billion higher than the U.S. Okay? If you look at Taiwan started with $550 million, and they also pumped in another $685 million. Remember that, it's a new technology. If you don't put in money, you're not going to get anything, because it has not been shaped up. We do not know how much money do we have to add in order to test a certain aspect of that. When the technology is mature, then you have done a lot of other stuff, and you know that after this you need to go to that. You don't spend a lot of time doing other things. Okay? China. See, China, as many of you know, that China is becoming a major country in nanotechnology here. Okay? So they have different bodies here: National Steering Committee for Nanoscience and Nanotechnology, and they started with somewhere around $250 million. Okay, and then they added some more here, about 760, and they only certain areas, that nanomaterials and ICT application, that what kind of application it has in the future here. So that there are very few countries, only those countries, they had a lot of resources, that they have lots of money, they started pouring in, and later on you will see that what kind of product they got. Okay? So China is actively involved, and especially since 1990 here, okay, sorry about that, okay, leading the world in sheer number of new technology companies. It is doing pretty well, I tell you that. Brazil, that they have several PhDs working in nanotechnology area. India, okay, you're talking about more than 30 institutions, okay, they are involved in the nanoscience area, nanotechnology area. Vietnam is also growing pretty fast in this area here. Talking about launch a nanoscience and nanotechnology initiative or infrastructure. Thailand, if you look at Thailand, development of national nanotechnology roadmap. How do we go about that? South Africa, they have few universities involved with this here. Philippines, they are also involved. Malaysia has, several research centers regarding the nanotechnology. If you look this table here, you are talking about, the different countries, list developed, developing countries, transitional countries, and developed country. And if you look at here, the developing country, India, is there. Okay? If you look at, the individual or group research here, Bangladesh is least developed countries here. These are some of the developing countries, some of the countries involved in nanotechnology research here. If you look at here, sorry about that, some of the slides are, I'm not sure why they are so light here. But if you look at here, that in terms of patent, intellectual property came out from nanotechnology research. And if you look at here, then of course, Europe is the highest number, pretty close to the North America, 36, 34%. Your Asia is not doing that bad as well, 28%. In terms of IP, intellectual property or patent being granted in the area of nanotechnology. Okay? And other countries, that very small areas, very small number. You can look at here. By 2004, the number of patents, the number of intellectual property by different countries. And if you look at here, this is US, India is somewhere here. So if you look, the US, China is next to that, Germany, France, so as you go, India is pretty low somewhere down here by 2004. Some of these countries are pretty down even. Because remember that, it's not just research, but then what is the output of that research? That's what's going to give you the patent here. And then you get the patent, and if there is no use for that patent, just for academic line, that I got a patent, so what? Okay, if you look at the evolution of nanotechnology in India, if you look at here, if you look at 1970, pretty well steady. There was none. And then after around 2007-8, it kind of took a sharp rise. Okay? So, it is considered high. The number of patents coming out, a number of nanotechnology research coming out from India is pretty high. I remember that, in about 2003 or 4, I had certain problems with my research, and I wanted to get some help with a chemist, and I had to go to IIT Kharagpur to get that. So there were very few areas within the India that they were working with the nanotechnology. Mostly IITs were working. Okay, here is some of the plan, 5 years plan in India, if you remember that. That 9th 5-year plan, that that these are some of the time. You can look here, and then if you look at that, that in 2000, the program on nanomaterial started in India. Okay, and if you look at that, and after that, that slowly, Nanoscience, Nanotechnology Initiative came out from Department of Science. Okay, they created research infrastructure and promote basic research in nanoscience and nanotechnology. Okay, your DST, Department of Science and Technology, they set up expert group on nanomaterials. Okay, so slowly you can see that after 2000, slowly things started moving along here. Okay, the 10th 5-year plans, that lot more things here. Nanomaterial science and technology mission was identified. Okay, and that kind of relating to the infrastructure development, basic research and application. Okay, so you need to develop the basic research, and then how do we apply that? And I think I hear right now that in India that whatever you develop, there is a lot more entrepreneurship on that. That's what the government is encouraging right now here. In this 10th 5-year plan that that we started developing in drugs delivery, gene targeting, and DNA chips. It started getting into the medicine area. If you look the 11th 5-year plan here, that there was some concrete number of rupees being invested, about 1,000 crore here. Okay, the Nano mission came out in 2007. A lot more things were done in the area of using these nanotechnology in health and diseases. Okay. Then in 12th, that although you see that the amount was decreased from 1,000, it became 650. Okay. Then of course, the second nano mission phase 2 came up, and then we had focus on product development and commercialization, the more kind of entrepreneurship. Okay, and that how can we be key example in the world to develop certain technology. This is basically same thing. You look here that the Nano mission came out in 2007. You look here in 2008, the PG programs are developed in India, postgraduate program. So talking about that not many people knew about that. In nanoscience there was no formal education. Okay, so that came in 2008 here. 2011 and 12, that if you had certain product coming out, you can apply for loans and grants for that. So it became more product-driven initiative by the government. International status. As you hear, you have read a lot. Nanoscience and nanotechnology has become part of our daily life. I was talking to earlier some of the colleagues that that nanoscience in US is part of our life. I tell you that. If I go and buy a milk, the milk, you buy 1 gallon, 4 liter from a store. You don't go to the Gwala there, no. You just buy from there, and it has been already added titanium dioxide. It's already there. So our body, you buy certain ice cream that right? The white powder, that is titanium dioxide. We eat titanium dioxide. What is the long-term goal? It is going in there. That do we know that, if I'm taking titanium dioxide, what will happen 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road? I don't know. It is already there. And not many people know about that. Yeah, we are the scientists, since we know that what is going on in there in food industry, but the regular man, the regular woman does not know buy milk from that Okay, so it is part of our daily life here that we can find them in food, clothing, in tires, fertilizers, paint, all these paints, you see that has nano in there. Cosmetics, all these lotion you guys apply, cosmetics, that has nano. How many of you know that, that the cosmetics you apply on the face, that has nano? Okay, so some of you know about that. But they are there, and you'll see some of the examples later on here. Okay? Medicine. I can understand the medicine. Because that right now most of the medicine being routinely done by that old method. But nowadays the new technology are coming up, and that uses the nanotechnology, nanomedicine. In my research, you will see that I'll talk about that in a couple of days. In my research, I developed gold nanoparticles using eco-friendly method, using a plant system. But it's not a nano extract. Nano extract, you kill the plant and you put some salt in there, it will give you gold nanoparticle, or you will give you the nanoparticle. But mine is in the living system, because by living system I can control the shape and size of those nanoparticles. That I want only 20 nanometer, I can synthesize. If the plants is living, then they can synthesize. Once you grind it, they are dead. They cannot synthesize. So when they are living, they can synthesize. We are more focused on triangle shape, gold nanoparticle, prism shape. Why is that? Because a few years back we read an article. They were using the prism shape and came out by chemically synthesized method. And they were targeting to the cancer cells, and then they were using for radiation therapy. So in the radiation therapy, that when you apply, you kill the cancer cells, same time you also kill good cells, right? But this prism shape, because of the shape of that, as such that it will absorb a lot more energy with the minimum amount of radiation, and it will only kill those nano cells, and at that radiation your good cells are fine. So we started working and we started developing. In the beginning we had 4%, and then later on we made it about 40-50%, because our goal was to synthesize. And you can start, it's a living system. You can start playing with the different gene expression on, off, and you can keep increasing the shape, the size, shape of the whatever you want. If you want plant to make spherical, it will make a spherical. You want rectangular, it will make rectangular. You want prism shape, it will make prism shape. See, that is eco-friendly method. Okay, so that's what we're talking about here. That radiation therapy. That if we inject these to tumor cell, these prism shape gold nanoparticle, we can kill only tumor cells. Okay, so depending upon what you need, and you start designing your experiments and so on here. Okay. So in many cases, and as we see a lot more product coming out, it became a national priority area for those countries here. That and it started helping us, helping the human being. But it's still, there's a big question there. We say helping, but I don't know what does it mean by helping. Okay? Yeah, when we see that, yeah, we kill those tumor cells, we are happy about that, but yeah, you kill the tumor cells, you are tumor free, but then we don't know what other causes we did to our body. Okay, we don't know about that. And that's where we need to focus upon that. Okay, so if you look at, that in European Union launched a team action in 2013 and 2020 that, which is the biggest research program in area of nanotechnology here. Okay, we have a center of excellence here in new materials, nanophotonics, additive laser-based technologies, and so on. Remember that, Professor Tripathi was saying that you develop the technology, but then from developing to making it a powerful technology, it takes several steps are there. Okay, so it takes a lot more time to do that. One of the things is the nanotechnology being used in advanced manufacturing. Japan is using. There are some other countries they are using. For example, Australia, Canada, China, France, Germany, Japan, Republic of Korea. Of course, US is already there. Okay. China is investing a lot of money. China's 16 mega engineering program. That's what they have decided for by 2020. Okay, Canada has changed their in 2014 advanced manufacturing was added in their business, that we need to add this advanced manufacturing in their research strategy here. Focus on automation using nanotechnology here, including robotics, lightweight materials, additive manufacturing, quantum materials, etc., etc. Okay, because as we see that there is a lot more job in the future in the nanoscience. Okay, the USA got involved with the advanced manufacturing in 2013. Your BRICS country. Remember that Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South America? That they all are striving for these nanotechnology hubs here. So slowly by time, although it is faster compared to any other technology, that that the nanotechnology area is growing here. All these governments in different countries, they are trying to foster the university-industry collaboration, because what they see from industry, they are, they don't have capability, they don't have manpower to do all those kind of things, whereas university can do all these, having you guys getting involved with the research project. You can do a lot more compared to the industry. So there is a lot more interaction. And in university is not just running for the, industry is not running for just, the goal is to make money in the future. So whatever we add or whatever the money, resources they are going to be using, that, that time to time they will evaluate it, and then finally there has to be a product coming out. So there is a lot more university-industry collaboration in many of these countries here. We are spending, in terms of globally here, we're spending close to $10 billion, which is not a lot, I tell you that. $10 billion is not a lot. if I remember that, the research budget for National Health Institute for U.S. is close to $30 billion. But talking about everything related to health. Okay, but this is just the $10 billion in globally we're talking about here. Total funding, government funding for nanotechnology research, is by 2011 is going to be approximately $65 billion. By 2014, $100 billion. By 2015, see that? 1 trillion. What we are talking about, see that? Every few years, it's going like this here. Okay, a lot more money being invested here. Sorry. If you look at the patents, how many patents coming out? Intellectual property here. By 2012, by U.S. Patent Office, that is recorded because U.S. Patent Office and Trademark is the agency that, any patent you apply, it got to go. They have to approve it. And then you have about 18 years of exemption. Nobody can use it. It's your patent. And then after 18 years, it becomes, anybody can use it. Okay? So look here that, the patent is about 27,350 patents here. And out of that, 57% were from U.S. scientists. Now remember that patent you can, being in India, patent you apply to U.S. government. You can being Indian citizen, there is no problem. So there are there are countries, there are industries that they have businesses in different countries. Okay, so in fact, more than half of that in U.S. And then, of course, that other countries, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Germany, they are also participating in patent here. And look here, that this graph is essentially showing, if you look this graph over here, is U.S. So look this one here, this color is health and fitness, okay? And then, I guess color is mixed up here, okay? Okay, so see here that, different color, you see that, different component, different application of nano in different areas, appliances, automotive, that, home and garden, food, beverages, cross-cutting goods and children and so on. So basically, if you look at here, if you look at that, mostly in health in USA, Japan also mostly in health, okay? So you can just from this figure, from this diagram, you can make it out that, which country is investing a lot more and getting a lot more patent here, okay? If you look at the number of products where the nanomaterials are involved, look here that USA is 563, Korea is 139, Korea is next. Okay, there are other countries as well, but this is again, this is data came out in 2009. Okay. Indian status. Of course, it is considered in India as an emerging technology. Nanotechnology is emerging technology here. That the goal is to develop human resources, skilled human resources in this area. So if there is a growth, there is industry, the people are there to be hired. Okay, and you see that some of the government has invested money in developing several courses, several programs in the universities. Okay, and of course the goal is to become a global leader. That's what India wants to do that here. In fact, India is 18th ranked by U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, had about 117 published patents. Not a lot, but it's still pretty good here. Okay. As I said, that that goal is to develop the skilled workforce. This nano mission is supported few institutions, to developing the nanotechnology courses and so on here. Okay, and of course, the nano mission is organized nationally to promote research and development. If you look at this one again, the color somehow, I'm not sure what is happening here, but if you look at this is the India map, and you can see that all these the point these are the different agencies that having nanotechnology research. Okay, Center for Excellence in India, and it's all over the place, everywhere, south, north, everywhere. And I'm not going to go because it is difficult to read it. The key department involved in nanotechnology research, development, and innovation. Okay, your Department of Science and Technology is the key one. That is the key department for Indian nanoscience and nanotechnology. Anybody apply for the grant? Of course, they need to go through science and technology. I'm not sure that what is the status. Does anybody know that? Do they fund anything in nano area? They do? Nano mission, yeah. Yeah, because I had a postdoc, he came back from US and he was Ramalingam fellow. Huh? Yeah, he was Ramalingam. Yeah, he was Ramalingam, and we have good record in nano, and he tried to submit several proposals. He could not, and had an excellent record. So I don't know whether his science was not good or there was some politics. I have no idea. Okay, so these Department of Science and Technology developed the different units on nanoscience, Center for Nanotechnology, Center for Computational Material Science, and thematic units of excellence on computational material science in various universities and government research center and so on. Centers or labs, so on. As you know, that our colleague mentioned that that human resources, that that development is part of the nano mission, that the developing all these MSc and PhD courses in area of nanoscience and technology. The Department of Biotechnology also funds in nanotechnology, nanobiotechnology research and development here. Again, it's an interdisciplinary area. It could be in biology, it could be in physics, chemistry, and so on here. And mostly that everybody is looking for translational research. Okay, so yeah, if you develop a technology, that what use it has. Is it going to help any of the sector within the country or not? Okay, developing a new therapeutics in medicine, early diseases. Okay, early detection of early diseases in human being. Tissue-specific drug delivery, medical devices, sensor for chemical, detection of chemicals and pathogen in food and crops. I mean, that food and crop, the one example I gave you, that they were trying to put in, a few years back I attended a conference in Brazil, and they were trying to put in sensors with the meat product. And when you go, you take out the meat and you look at the sensor, it gives you different color. It means it is good, it is bad. Okay. Another example I was talking about that, the medicine. Remember that, that anybody has some sort of, let's say, eye problem. You take eye drops, right? So they put the eye drops, that only certain percent stays inside and rest comes out from the eye. Okay, a good friend of mine, he developed these nanocapillary, and they can transplant the nanocapillary, and using the nanocapillary, it will only release certain concentration of that drug. Nothing will come out of the eye. So remember that, by coming out of eye means you have lost certain amount, a certain quantity of that drug. That's what the company wants to invest, so they can make money. They developed this Center for Materials for Electronics Technology in Pune, Hyderabad, Thrissur. Fabrication of Nanomaterials. One of the key things is that you need to know that when you synthesize these nanofabrication, what kind of coating you have on top of that, and that coating will determine that what kind of conjugate you can add to that. Okay, depending upon whatever is the need here. Okay, so that research is pretty well underway in India in area of nanoelectronics, nanotechnology. Some of the other areas within the India is Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. They established the Nano Manufacturing Technology Center, Academy for Excellence of Advanced Manufacturing Technology in Bangalore. So a lot more, see that, lot more investment from the government to open up different kind of centers, different kind of, the research units to study different kind of things. Department of Industrial and Scientific Research, okay, that, this one also provides, this one also provides various grants and fellowship. If somebody is interested in nano, you should be able to get some grants or fellowship here. That as you know that CSIR has several labs around the country that you can work there, okay, and mostly engaged in R&D of different discipline, which uses nanoscience and nanotechnology. India is also developing several international links, so developing contact with the different countries to basically further enhance the nanoscience research here. And there are certain units here, international standard organization, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, international risk governance. See that risk here, that? Did you guys hear the risk earlier? No, so slowly now the risk is getting into there because we don't know what is the risk there. We just wanted to spend the money to get the product, make money. But what are the risks? It's slowly coming to the risk now here, okay? What are the safe lab practices? What kind of cloth you need to wear if you are working in the automation? Okay, whether it is going to rub your skin or not, because we know that that some of these nano product can get through your skin into your bloodstream. Okay, so all these lab safety practices are going on here. As I said, the risk governance is quite significant. We need to know about that. I worked for 20 years. Now after 20 years, I have this problem, that problem, and so on. Is that because I was working with the nanotechnology or not? Okay? So that is key thing here. That and some of these are used in different location. I showed you that map earlier. That in some of those centers. Health-related nanotechnology research in India. Okay, India would like to become a leader in nanotechnology. Of course, any country wants that, right? Okay, in next 5 to 10 years. I mean, you saw that this area nanotechnology has grown pretty fast, right? Okay, in 5 to 10 years, of course, you want to become, but then there are other countries they are trying to do at the same time. So you need to have resources to support that thing. Just by saying, yeah, I want to become it, but if there is no resources, then of course you cannot. Okay, so there got to be resources for that. Indian research has been strengthened by a number of domestically based international nanotechnology healthcare conferences. It came out in 2003, 2005, international workshop in nanotechnology and healthcare. So there are companies here that most of these generic, most of the healthcare product in generic lines, that they had this conference to study more about health-related nanotechnology here. Nanotechnology in India, current status and future aspect. You see that we developed the National Science Technology Initiative. We started 60 crore rupees for that. Okay, in 2007 we launched about 5 years program. We call them Nano Mission. Yeah, of course, many of us got some funding through that. Okay, and that the budget that time was $250 million. For India, that's good amount. I would say that. Okay, look the publication. In 5 years, that's a lot of publication. 23,000 publication in nano area. So we publish. What is the product? We do all these research for academic career or what? If you want to grow something, then there got to be a product coming out from there. Okay, and that's what the product. Right now, I hear that there is a lot more entrepreneurship. But yeah, we'll give you funding, provided that you take it. Conclusion, you take it to the product. There are industrial collaboration, work with them, and so on here. And if you look at it, in 2013, India ranked 3rd in number of papers published behind India, China, and USA. So we're growing. Some publication is coming out. Okay. We also had 300 patent application by Indian Patent Office in 2013. So number patent is coming out too. So here that the good news is that the Nano mission has been extended till 2022 as phase 2, and there is more money being available from the government. Of course, that nanotechnology will further move up. Okay, but the key thing is the product. That's what everybody is looking for, because product is the one making the money. Okay, so goal for India is India can aim to become a global leader in nanotechnology. That's what we aim for that. It's good to have high aim, but at the same time we need to have resources. We need to provide all those resources to the scientists to, to get a product made from their research. Okay. Looking into the future in the area of nanotechnology here. Okay. Our goal is within 7 years could reduce cancer by using nanotechnology, nanomedicine. We call it nanomedicine now. Okay. Within next 10 years, we could reduce the heart disease. Okay. We could make a fabric for military battle suit. Okay. That is in progress. I know that. Okay. So that this fabric could be flexible, comfortable material to rigid and bulletproof or sealed from chemical or bacterial agents. So it's not just the the gun. It is also bacterial and chemical agent. You know that, right? Recently, what happened in Iraq War, right? So you know that if the soldiers are using these fabric, then of course they can be protected. Within next 15 years, nano robots perform cellular repair. These nano robots can be injected, and they could go to the site and try to repair the damage. I showed you nano robots earlier, 10 nanometer in size. Okay. Your carbon nanotube, can help us as well. That there are a lot of things coming out from carbon nanotube. I have done some research with that, and it does induce the growth of the plant. There are a lot more coming out. China is working very hard in carbon nanotubes. Within next 20 years, replicators using molecular manufacturing could allow us to build almost anything inexpensively, atom by atom. Okay, so we are talking about strength to weight ratio about these materials developed by nanotechnology. About 50 times that of steel could make very lightweight car. So the weight is it will be stronger than steel, but weight is going to be 50 times compared to 50 times lower compared to the steel. Very light car. Planes. That they are using all kind of fabricated material now in these planes. That's a range. That is the reason that plane can fly without any taking any stop for a long time. From New York City to Delhi, I flew, and the pilot says that the distance from New York City to Delhi was 13,590 kilometers. Without any stop, we came. There are, that new materials are coming out using nanotechnology. The flight can, from Singapore, it can go to New York City, which is 18 hours flight, non-stop. Because you have reduced the tons or weight, and then it can fly, with the less fuel, it can fly and go all the way. What's that?
Space elemental applications by using carbon nanotubes.
Oh, space elevator enabling inexpensive space. Yeah. So remember, you're talking about going to the space here. So, huh? The hypothetical, yes, yes, yes. Nothing being done. I mean, you know that there is a plan for us, for humankind. I would say that plan for us that we can space and we can live on Mars and other plan, but nothing has happened yet. Yeah. So these are the plan hypothetical goals for us, and then eventually, who knows? I mean, who knew about that in 1960 about this nanotechnology? We talk on 50 years on where we are right now. Okay? Oh my God, it's 5:45, right? Okay, here is some of the conclusion. It's a fairly new area. And I recall I was in graduate school when the biotechnology was going on. It was moving so fast, but we had no clue that, when we eat these GMOs, then what will be the impact in future? Exactly same way this nanotechnology is moving. So fairly new area. Countries around the world working hard to lead this technology. Of course, you saw that, many examples, that some of the countries are far for hypothetical. If you show progress, then you can get it up to $500,000. If you show progress that, yeah, it is great. You develop some industrial collaboration and so on. And if the second, that is called SBR phase 2, and then after that is about 2.5 million SBR phase 3. And then after that, they will not fund. I mean, it got to be incorporated with the industry and so on. So as you're saying that there are some possibility, okay, look for those ideas. Okay, if you got something concrete in your mind, certainly go after that, get those money. But, think about that.